Welcome to One Sharp Sword, cutting through to what matters most. I'm Dr. Wayne Pernell, your host, your guide on this journey, the outfluencer, and your powerful presence mentor. Today, I've got an amazing guest. I have got somebody who has a background that I'm going to say nobody else has. Nobody else has. Asa Leveaux he's known for his work with entrepreneurs. He has started the Genius Academy. He's produced the Entrepreneurial Playbook. He's the founder, or actually heavy contributor to the Oklahoma Black Business Expo. He's been in Huffington Post, Wall Street Journal, and Psych Today, among others. These days, it is the Entrepreneurial, is that Entrepreneurial Academy or work that you're doing. Let me just bring him on. Asa Leveaux, thank you for being here on One Sharp Sword.
And thank you for having me. I do not take this lightly at all. I mean, with Dr. Wayne Pernell. Like, let's just be clear about that.
Let's be clear about that. That's awesome. Well, you've got quite a background, and One Sharp Sword is about cutting through to what matters most. And wow, you're in, it's so strange to say, you're in so many categories, that are challenged every single day. And, society pushes back, and you've come through, and you're an author, you're a speaker, you're an entrepreneurial coach, and you're darn good at it. So talk to me a little bit about your journey. Talk to me about, how'd you get here? What have been some of the biggest challenges in your life? And toward the end, I'm going to ask you if how people can find you and that kind of stuff. So yeah, so you're sitting there nodding, and this is mostly audio. So, and for those that can't see it, because we'll be posting some of this visually as well. Asa has the biggest smile, like the biggest smile. Picture your screen, and his smile goes edge to edge on your screen. So he's sitting there nodding and smiling. All right, Asa, talk to me.
Sure. So first off, hello to those of you who are listening and or watching. I am from Oklahoma, and in Oklahoma, it is considered rude to enter a virtual space or a physical space and not speak to every single human in the room. So hello. I'm so glad that you are here. Thank you for supporting Dr. Pernell. I appreciate this on his behalf. And so for those of you who have absolutely no idea who in the whole world I am Asa Leveaux. I am a being that has a purpose on this rock called Earth to ensure that every being understands and acknowledges and remembers how divinely, amazingly limitless they are.
You know what's cool about that, Asa? Is that where I started by saying you're in a couple of categories that have just been pushed back. If we just go there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Divine being, the categories fall away. All the categories fall away.
And it was something while you were even talking about the categories, and you had made you're very clear. I'm in different categories that society has sometimes pushed back. And I would like to add additional information to that statement.
Please.
Yes, you are correct. And I do not give anyone permission to push back on me.
That's awesome. That's how you show up. That's so awesome. Yeah. And you're, again, smiling so big when you say it. It's like,
Of course. There was a time when smiles were too costly to give.
ouch. Wow.
Yeah.
Talk a
So
little bit about that. Let's go there, please. Let's
of
go.
course, of
Yeah.
course. So, yes, everything that you said about me being the founder of the Oklahoma Black Business Expo, me being in Wall Street Journal, Huffington Post, Forbes, U.S. News and World Report, all of these wonderful publications, best-selling author. Thankfully, you even added to one of my
I did
books
contribute.
called I Am Man Enough, 365 Affirmations for Men, which is my very first Amazon best-selling book that I ever did. So thank you for that. And all of that's real.
It is.
And if you are an entrepreneur, a thought leader, a change agent in training, um, something that you may be dealing with is how can I be all of these wonderful things and still struggle with the intensity that I am in this right now moment? That dichotomy of struggle and success operating simultaneously. I remember I was at a luncheon a few years ago, and I had been awarded like a 40 under 40 type thing in Oklahoma City. The Journal Record has something called the Achievers Under 40, and I was awarded it that year. And I can remember, fine linen, the movers and shakers of my city. And right after that, I had to go clean toilets because I had to pay rent.
Hmm.
I mean, we're talking about an hour, not days. I'm talking about within an hour of each other. I am posing with a tulip knot paisley tie. And then while I'm in the car, I strip down to the bare minimum so that I can quote unquote act as my station needs me to allow, so that I can clean someone's toilet, so that I can pay rent. So I understand what that looks like, feels like, tastes like, sounds like. I really do. Um, and I say that because so often, I remember being the person that was consuming all of the content, looking for motivation to continue, and people on these podcasts or shows would stay right there. They would stay about how amazing they are and the accolades and all of that, but they would never connect to make me feel like I wasn't, or that I could be one of them. There's this cognitive dissonance with so many people as though what they're striving for can't be because they're allowing what is to be the dominant focus. And in this right now moment, I'm asking you, the listener, you, the viewer, to strip away everything that quote unquote is and focus on what can be. Because to be realistic is to deny your complete self.
Say that again. That's gold.
To be realistic, quote unquote realistic, is to deny your complete self.
Hmm. Yay. I've been saying that as well. Not as eloquently, but that's awesome. That's exactly right. Oh, be realistic. I call it the R word. Be
Yeah,
realistic.
yeah.
Being
It,
realistic is somebody else's imposition of their limits on you.
yes, and I am not comfortable in my limitations anymore. And I don't want that for anyone else.
That's amazing. Amazing. So you started humbly. I mean, you're right. You weren't always the entrepreneur. You weren't always the one with the tulip knot, and to have that and to be in a position of janitor at the exact same time.
Mhm.
It's I think that gives permission. Really, I think so many of us as listeners, as humans, as divine beings, we struggle with the things we do as the label that we are, right? So it's like, well, you're nothing but a janitor. It's like, no,
Mm.
no, janitor is important, and at the same time, you're in a tux. It's like that's an okay thing. You can be both, and not have either of them define you, right? And I think that's the magic piece that you bring to people, that you remind you remind us all that we're bigger than that. We're more than some role, right?
You are God made manifest.
So talk a little bit about not everybody accepts you, right? So can you talk a little bit about how those kinds of obstacles have come up, how the
Sure.
challenges have come up, and how you've just sort of taken it in stride and basically you're allowing it to be Teflon, or you're allowing yourself to be Teflon, and just sort of it slips right off you. Whatever,
It's
right?
hard because I don't give permission for other people's opinions to penetrate who I am. So
How did you come to that? Because I am certain that that's not always who you were.
it was not who I was always. My mother had a great deal to do with that. And so what I mean by that, there are a couple of different stories from my mother growing up. And so let's just be clear. I grew up as a little black boy in Oklahoma in the 80s. So, in a predominantly white place. So I was often the only black face in white spaces. And so what that looks like for me growing up as early as 6 and 7, in Oklahoma history, there's an understanding of something called the land run. The land run is how Oklahoma became a state, which literally means they said on this particular date, we are going to have a starting line. And no matter if you're on train, horse, foot, wagon, you're going to chart off into the great beyond and put a stake down. And then wherever you are, you can claim that for yourself. Well, we were learning about Oklahoma history, and basically they were just focusing on the white faces and the Native American faces. And I came home and I said, Mama, maybe I shouldn't be black. And she said, Well, why not? I said, We don't do anything.
Wow.
And she said, What exactly do you mean? I said, Well, I'm learning about the land run and the Native Americans, they were here, and Oklahoma, like the word is even their language. And then white people, it's like they were just everywhere. They were cowboys and they were just all over the place. And we weren't anything but slaves. And she said, We are going to the library right now, not tomorrow, now. And she began to open up the possibilities that I had no idea. So she introduced me to Black cowboys, and not just one, but entire posses of Black cowboys. And the fact that Oklahoma actually has the most historically Black towns of any state in the Union because of that land run. You had freed slaves that were like, okay, this is our time. We can actually have land for ourselves, and this is how we're going to do it. And I had no idea. And so her teaching me and showing me, oh, I am everywhere if I just look. And so that was the catalyst for my fascination with books. And then also, me being the eldest of five, of course, I have to protect people that are younger than me, four humans that are younger than me. And so I was scared at times or around first and second grade. And she looked me in my eye. She said, Here's the thing, we are not tall people. We are not a tall people. And so if we were scared of everything that was bigger than us, we would be scared for the rest of our lives.
Mm.
We are too short to be scared of anything. And that was the precipice of literally life. I realized I'm too short to be scared. So I was the person in high school, in junior high. If I heard that a football player was talking noise about Asa and they wanted to fight Asa after school, I'm the person that literally walked up to you at your locker and said, Excuse me, I just have a question. I heard you wanted to fight me. Could we just get this over with? I have things to do. Like seriously, like what gall he has. But the thing about it, no one would ever do it. They would just talk about it because yeah, I was that guy. I'm just too short to be scared. And that and that has went on for the rest of my life. So starting writing books, I was just too scared not to do it. Coaching, too scared not to do it. Coming out, too short. I mean, I just don't see how I would allow anything to imprison me besides my own self.
I love that. I think Too Short to Be Scared is a great book title.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Hey, that actually is a good title.
It is a good title. It's
It,
like, because it's mama's wisdom, and it's your action. You lived into it. So that's amazing.
thank you.
Amazing. Cool. So what are you working on now? Like, if you were to impart wisdom for our listeners, our viewers, if you were to impart wisdom to our audience, you've just walked up, like the idea of you as a kind of a scrawny little black kid walking up to the big white football player, right? That's a great metaphor for life. It's a great metaphor for all of us, no matter who we are, is to recognize, we can walk up and just take that take
Mhm.
that challenge sort of head on.
Yeah.
And so talk a little bit about, one, are there other challenges you've met like that recently? And two, what are you working on? And what else should we know? Because that's like,
Yeah.
you've had these nuggets of gold that you've been just scattering in this conversation. So it's amazing, Asa. Thank you.
Well, no, you're welcome. And the things that I have encountered that have really just shown me of how resilient I can be is embedded or intertwined into the fabric of my journey. Everything from creating my very first teleconference when at 2012 when I decided to be a coach for the very first time, and I was under the name of the moniker of being a bliss coach.
Hmm.
I was a global bliss coach. I knew that I wanted to help entrepreneurs, but I wanted to help entrepreneurs find their bliss. And that was my first go at being a coach. And then thankfully, I listened to people that said, Asa, I don't know what the hell you're talking about. That's not clear. We have no idea what you're doing, how you're doing it, what your results are. Because how do you measure bliss? Like, how do you know you have it? Even though the definition of bliss is being happy to the point that you are oblivious to everything in life. That's the actual definition of bliss. Um, and so I was like, okay, so I had to reframe it. And in that reframing, I felt fraudulent every day of my natural life.
How
I,
so?
I
What
felt
did you
fraudulent.
reframe, and what led you to feel like a fraud?
So I reframed it so I became clear that I was an entrepreneur coach, and I allow comparison to enter my everyday existence, and
Uh,
comparison is the thief of all joy. And I robbed myself of joy every day because I would look at people like Lisa Nichols, Vision of Mind Valley, Brendan Bashar, um, Paul Brunson, George Frazier, Gary Vee. I mean, I mean, just on and on and on. And I would look at them and say, how could I ever do this and be desired and be wanted if they are already here? Like, look at these dope people. They are amazing. And I'm supposed to be like them. And that was the first thing. I was never supposed to be like them. I was doing my best to
I'm
fit in.
applauding.
I
I was
was doing
never
my best.
supposed to be like them is a great quote.
Yeah, I was never supposed to be like them. And the reason why I was so pissed off with myself is that I was doing my best to fit inside of the box that they were, even though they never told me to. It wasn't even their fault. I did that to myself. I did that. And so once I realized that they were beacons of light on my journey and not the beacon to the final destination, that's when I started having my own light. And that's when I found literally, I found my smile. When I started to realize, oh, Asa Leveaux is supposed to be Asa Leveaux and not the male Lisa Nichols, not the black Brendan Burchard. Like Asa Leveaux is supposed to be the Asa Leveaux. When I realized that for myself, I was like, oh, okay, I got it now. So I can stop wearing suits because that's not me. I'm very much a skinny jeans, V-neck, wide brim hat kind of guy. And so I don't have to be them. And on my own platforms, I cuss a lot. And I can, and that's who I am. And for the longest time, I was like, people told me, Asa, that's so unprofessional. That is so, you will never get anywhere of substance if you use language like that. Or if you're out, this whole pansexual LGBTQ thing, I mean, that might be cute over there, but in our industry, that's not what we do. You need to understand that we have certain standards. And all I heard was wah 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 wah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
I would have never been able to, for instance, T-Mobile. People don't know this, but T-Mobile actually has the same type of grandiose um, um, conferences just like Apple does, but Apple is known for streaming them or them being, large platforms, especially, Steve Jobs when he was alive, he did them. T-Mobile does the exact same thing. The only thing is they're not allowed to be broadcast because so many F-bombs are being dropped. Literally, like that's their culture. And so when I was approached with the opportunity to provide training with Genius Academy to T-Mobile, and I was very much still in the mindset that I couldn't be what I wanted to be if I was authentic to myself. And so I asked the person that asked me, the operations manager, I said, please know something before you hire me. You may not want to hire me. And she said, why? Wouldn't want to hire you? I said, I'm known for cussing. And I cuss well and often. I mean, there's a magic in my cussing. And I don't do it because I'm angry. I do it in a celebratory fashion. So you may, if you Google me at this time, you might want to choose someone else. She said, actually, I want to hire you faster. I said, why? She said, oh, that's part of us. You're going to fit right in. We are F-bombing, Chuck wearing culture. I said, wow, who would have thought that if I was just myself, I could get success like that? That was amazing to me. And the same thing was when I was able to do work for the Miss Universe pageant. I thought that my queerness would have an issue, especially because I was doing it in the country of Belize, which is a Caribbean styled country. And in the Caribbean, they are so anti-LGBTQ, the culture of the Caribbean. So when I was there and I was just my complete self, and I'm, coaching the contestants, and they loved me, fell in love with me. And then with the
Well, what's
military,
not to love, really? What's not
well,
to
thank
love?
you. I appreciate that. But let's just be honest. Let's just be honest. I've met some people. I remember getting my podcast together and I was talking to a person that helps people with their podcasts. And I said, I'm going to need some show art. And he said, Asa, we got you. You know I love you. I said, but there's something you shouldn't know. He said, what? I said, you do know, like, I'm pansexual. He said, yeah, I know. I said, but you have an agency, like you work with people. He said, no, we're good. He said, no, we have a Jamaican guy. And he does all of our art. And I said, hold up, time out, pump your brakes. I said, do you understand what a gay person life is like in Jamaica? They literally will tie gay people to banana trees and light them on fire, like a Salem witch trial. Like they do that to today. He said, no, there's no way. And I said, I'm telling you, as a Black queer human, there are things about this world that don't look the same for you being a cisgendered, white, heterosexual male. Who, like, there's some things that you just might, I'm not calling you anything. I just want to let you know there's some things that my life has given me evidence of that you may not know. And so he's like, don't worry about it. So in about 3 days, and he called me, he said, may I call you? I said, sure. So we called, and he was on the verge of tears. He said, Asa, I'm so sorry. I said, what are you sorry for? You didn't do anything to me. You all been nice to me. He said, no, you warned me. You told me, or you did your best to tell me what life could be like for you and people like you. And I dismissed it as though you had no idea what your own experience was like.
Mm.
And I have to tell you that when I, told the person on my team about the artwork for your show, they denied you service. They said they would not that they would think about it. No, they said they would not do your artwork for your show. And I am so sorry. And I said, it's really okay. I told you. I said, I post this often, and you've liked my post when I said this particular thing, but you didn't understand until now what I mean. I often say, I only go where I am celebrated, not tolerated.
Hmm.
So the reason why I'm smiling all the damn time, because I have finally, at the age of 37, found these wonderful little holes and comfy corners around the globe that celebrate someone like me. So if they have an energy, virtually or physically, that don't provide that, guess what? I don't even go. I don't even go. So if you are listening, the person that's listening, you're like, I'm trying to find my sweet spot, and you are whatever, even if you are a heterosexual, white, cisgendered male, I am telling you, go where you are celebrated, not tolerated.
Love it. I'm writing it down. And what's cool about you, among other things, Asa, is that you actually create that celebration wherever you go. It's so good. It's so good. Um, there are a couple things that I want to circle back to, um, just to highlight it. And I am writing this down. So here's the thing. I have a term I use, which is comparisonitis, which
Mhm.
is inflammation. Like itis means inflammation of, right? So for me, comparisonitis is inflammation of the comparison gland. And
Mhm.
basically, when you're out there going, "Well, I'm not Brendan. I'm not this person. I'm not that person. I'm not Gary V. I'm not whoever, right? I'm not that." And at some point you do this sort of forehead slap and go, of course I'm not that, right? And it's like that's when you realize you've been living smaller because you wanted to be that. And I think part of your magic is that you got past wanting to belong to another tribe,
Mhm.
and you said, I am the tribe, right? It's
Yeah.
not like I need to belong, I need to belong. It's more like I am, who wants to join me, right? And when you got to that space, everything changed, and that's what allows you to have this life of celebration, I think, is that you went, I'm not comparing myself to anybody else. They were lights on my path. Thank you. Let me be a light on someone else's path.
I,
Awesome. Here
I'm
we
so
go.
glad you said
Right.
that. I've never been able to articulate it in that way, but you are 100% correct. That is exactly what happened. I can actually, while you were talking, I actually started seeing it in my journey. So, this journey of entrepreneur, influencer, entrepreneur, coach, since for the last 8 years, since 2012, has looked like me starting off within one person's tribe, which is Lisa Nichols, and me thinking I belong there. And thankfully, Lisa Nichols loved me and loves me. Whenever I see her, she knows my name and she hugs me. But people around her started saying, you know what, Asa? The way you are is just a little bit different. And so you may find greater response or a greater feeling if you went over to this person. So the people they pushed me into was Vision and Mind Valley and Awesomeness Fest. And so what did I do? I went over there. Went to Awesomeness Fest, had a great time, and then what happened? People started saying, "Oh, you know, Asa, maybe you don't really fit over here. What if you went over here?" Well, you do that about 4 to 5 times. And though I captured really great acumen along the way, really great resources and ways to be, I never really felt home. I never felt home. And it wasn't until somebody, I was interviewed for a paper, a regional paper called The Gaily. And the person that interviewed me, she said, "So how do you put all this together? Like how do you do all the gay stuff and then how you do all the entrepreneur stuff?" She's like, "Are you an entrepreneur?" I said, "Well, holy hell. Yes, I am. That's exactly what I am. I have been doing my best to find the intersection between all things divinely queer and entrepreneurship." And I didn't know how to say it at first because up until that time, I had actually been having an issue with clients. And my issue with clients has looked like they see my result, which is my given result has always been showing entrepreneurs how to create their first $10,000 in business. That's my result.
Mhm.
And them loving my result, saying they love me, but then saying, "Asa, I can't do a testimonial for you because my church family wouldn't understand."
Wow. Wow.
So I'm celebrated in the moment and hidden after the result is given. And then that brought up feelings of what it was like to be a little Black boy in Oklahoma and have white girlfriends. My first white girlfriend was in kindergarten. And it would be great all day at school, but I couldn't call their house.
Mm.
And I was not allowed over, and I could never go to the birthday party. So I'm fine as long as I don't penetrate their existence. It's almost like I am a cultural accessory.
Wow. Ouch. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah,
Amazing in not such a great way. You know, the amazing part is the bounce that you've taken, right? The resilience you have to have begun to identify your own tribe, and it starts with you saying, you know what, these people were lights on my journey. I think this is so relevant to our listeners, the audience. I think that it's that each of us has followed different people along the way. And the goal is to find yourself, follow other people. That's awesome. I think it was Bruce Lee who said, absorb what is useful, right? That it's like, you don't have to follow his whole thing about Jeet Kune Do was that it was the way of no way, that it was like all these martial artists that stood up and said, my way is the best way. Well, my style is the best style. And it's
right.
like, well, for every individual, you can absorb different things from different styles that fit for you. And I think that that is what you've shown. I think that's who you've been, and that your the resilience factor that you have is the celebration piece, that you go where you're celebrated, not tolerated, and that there you've had a history of being celebrated in the moment, and then oh, there's this wall. It's
Mhm.
like, yes, but, and it's like, you know what, I'm still me, right? And that's who you are today. And we're seeing a culture that is slowly tearing down certain barriers, I think. Right, and it's been a very long time, you know. And I just, it's like, it's one of the reasons I wanted to talk to you, is because you've overcome so much, and you know that this is in this being one sharp sword cutting through to what matters most. You're cutting away the stuff that no longer matters, and
Right.
that too has been your journey, right? That you've cut away so much. So what's next for you? What are you working on now that's like inspiring you to be even greater?
Sure, I have a couple of things. So, um, I said before that I am the creator of the Oklahoma Black Business Expo. And so there's now all of a sudden a resurgence of focus on the Black economics. So, which is good, which
It's
is
really
good.
good. It's really
And so I will have the next one next year. I did not allow it to be this year. I wanted to make sure that we were safe with COVID-19. I wanted to I wanted to be planned out. I don't want to just jump on a quote unquote bandwagon. I still believe in planning. 18 years of military experience says planning is real. And I love planning, and it's important. But planning without paralysis, for those of you perfectionists out there, uh, just want to make that clear. So yes, I'll be doing that. Single Con is coming. We had to stop Single Con because it was coming around the time COVID-19 was happening. So Single Con is my first national event for single entrepreneurs. There's something to be said about single entrepreneurs and the life of one. You just don't have anybody that's making sure you eat.
wow.
Yeah, you don't have anybody all the time that gives you the, hey, you can do this, or rubs you on your back, or catches your tears on their shoulder.
Yeah.
And so there is a level of grace and ease that I desire to give single entrepreneurs on a multi-day experience. So that's coming. I have actually just, I'm confirming actually after this call, after this podcast interview, I'm confirming of my new show that will be streaming on Roku, Apple TV, Fire Stick, Twitch, Periscope, Facebook Live, across all those platforms. And it will be called House of Leveaux. So, for those of you who are not really familiar with gay culture or even Black gay culture, and let's say you haven't watched the documentary Paris is Burning, or you haven't seen an episode of Pose, there is something called ballroom culture that was originated in Harlem, New York. And so a ball is literally where LGBTQ, usually Black and brown LGBTQ individuals, they go into this big space and they have categories. So you'll have a category of runway. So the category is runway. And so you'll have these individuals come and they walk the ball in this particular category. And there's all types of categories. There's butch, femme, whatever. Yes, all types. And so I wanted to have an extension of that ballroom culture to integrate what it is to be queer and business minded. So House of Laveau, and we'll have different categories such as an entrepreneurship category, an activist category. And so we'll talk about those different categories throughout the show, as well as having, commercials. So I'm making it like an actual weekly 30-minute show 20 minutes of content, 10 minutes of market sponsorship, marketer space. And that's coming very, very soon. I'm geeked about it, like absolutely geeked about it. And of course, the podcast that I have, the Entrepreneur Show with Asa Leveaux, we are currently in the second season. I do 20 episodes per season. I've gotten some really good feedback, very cool individuals that have come on to share their stories. I'm liking this space. I'm getting ready to leave America again within the next 2 weeks to take on a large contract because I finally, after all this time, have met the right people. So I've met the right marketing people that are saying, Asa, we have a plan for your brand that is going to have the eyes that it deserves. And so I'm taking a contract overseas to make sure that that happens. So for those entrepreneurs that are being like, what ways can you infuse cash? There's nothing wrong with taking a contract um, for a limited amount of time to infuse your business with cash because cash is the lifeline, the bloodline of your business. Otherwise, you have a hobby, not a business. So it's imperative that you are clear about that. So
Right.
those are the things that are coming up next. Um, yeah, and they are all in support of the way I see my life looking. The way I see my life looking is me having a dual residence in Bali and Brazil, celebrating others as people celebrate me, speaking around the world still, and still reminding every human that I see that they are limitless and divine.
What a great message. That's so great. That's awesome. And to go back to the entrepreneurial thing,
Mhm.
making money is the best way to get your message out there further. And so it's not right. It's not something to be allergic to. It's that is the way to create the life you want and to spread your message. So that's awesome. Wow. So given that you're on the go and on the rise, how do people find you?
Asa Leveaux everywhere. So if you have no idea how to spell that, that is ASALEVEAUX. If you are one of my veteran friends, that is spelled Alpha Sierra Alpha Lima Echo Victor Echo Alpha Uniform X-ray. That's how you spell it phonetically.
Copy that.
I am literally Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest. I'm in most platforms. You can reach out to me if you desire for me to support you, and you're looking like Ace. I really want to know how you can support me. Go to support.aceleveaux.com. My website is aceleveaux.com. Um, and feel free to reach out. I am not one of these individuals that feel like you have to have 10,000 followers for me to say hello to. You were born good enough. So I am going to see you as God sees you, good enough, and respond to you like you deserve. So don't feel any type of way about reaching out to me. I am here because someone named Dr. Wayne Pernell saw someone that had absolutely no accolades and said yes to being in his book. And then when I came out online, did not remove his virtual friendship. So if Dr. Wayne Pernell can do that to me, I can do that for you.
It's so sweet. It's so sweet. I guess it was years ago that I saw this shining light and rising star, and it's just been a great privilege to watch you do this, Asa. Just so good, and really thank you for being here. So I'll have your contact info in the show notes.
Right.
I do very much appreciate you being here. Thank you. This is One Sharp Sword Cutting Through to What Matters Most. I'm Dr. Wayne Pernell, and you've been listening to our interview with Asa Leveaux. We'll see you here next time.